Gems 105, The Hog's Ear Report, Scene 1, Take 527. Hey DC, thanks for joining me. Hey, back on the rebound, follow-up of yesterday's video, recent finds, United States edition. And I don't have like a really great selection here. You know, all this coming from the wild, and no great killers, but I got some pretty decent stuff to show. And I'll show some albums, I'll show some 45s, and also got something else to show at the end as well. So first thing on the agenda is a big thanks to Ritchie. So cheers, Rich. He sent me some VCLT. So he sent me this cool t-shirt from Amoeba Records in Hollywood. And so I really thank you for that, Rich. It fits great. And also he sent me a 12-inch EP by a band called The Weirdos. And The Weirdos they were a pretty prominent first wave punk rock band out of the LA area. And I did a little bit of reading about them. I was not familiar with them. So I really enjoyed this record. It's got 4 songs on it, and it's Rhino Records, 1980. It's one of their, I think it's one of their last records that they released before they broke up. And they were originally formed in around 76, 77 time frame. And Rich told me that they have some better records other than this one, but let me tell you, I enjoyed this one. I thought it was a very good record. So it's kind of that post-punk sound, and it's got a cover version of The Doors' Break On Through on it, and yeah, totally cool. So definitely have to be checking some more of these guys out. And this record, by the way, is mint minus condition, and I know what these things go for, Rich, so thank you so much for this. Okay, next one I'm going to show is a record that I picked up yesterday at the record show, and it's a band called Green, and this is their first release, and it's what's on the turntable right now. And it's a mixture of sort of kind of like acid rock like this, but the main formula for the album is sort of folky pop rock with a little psych mixed in. Very strong, good album, and I think it gets better with repeated listenings. This band was out of Texas, and they only had 2 albums, and this is the better of the 2. I remember years and years ago I bought their second album, and it just has a solid green cover, and I was very disappointed in that. It might have a few highlights on it, but overall it pales in comparison with this one, and I just didn't keep it very long. I let it go. But this one's definitely a keeper. I got a nice clean copy of it in the shrink, and so totally cool. I got a nice clean mono Bob Dylan Greatest Hits. This is a 1967 release, and this album's harder to find in mono. It's on the 2i Columbia label. And I got it to showcase the poster that it came with. And then I upgraded my Alice Cooper Love It to Death first censored cover. My other copy that I have is sort of a VG, and this is more like a VG Plus. These are hard to find. They don't pop up that much. So I was glad to upgrade it.
There were flowers growing there.
And then I got, if you watch my channel for any length of time, you know that I live in Arizona and I collect Arizona music. So I got this KDKB FM 98 sampler, and these are hard to find, and they go for some pretty good money. It's from 1980, and it showcases a lot of local bands that, you know, they didn't put out any records, and if they did put out any records, this has material that isn't on those records. So yeah, side one is more like modern rock, sort of heavy, hard modern rock, and the side two is all more like new wave, post-punk stuff, and totally cool, really good comp, and it even came with a vintage bumper sticker from back in the day. I don't know if it came with this or someone stuck it in there, but that's an old bumper sticker. And then it had an inner sleeve, various advertisements, probably people who helped to sponsor the album. So that's pretty cool. The next one I got is an album by the legendary Stardust Cowboy, and this guy is really out there. He's kind of known as sort of a psychobilly, and this is a pretty scarce album from it says it came out in 1984. It's a U.S. pressing on the Amazing label. But I believe material was recorded earlier than that, if I remember right. And it's got a cool label, and it is pressed on clear vinyl. You just don't see records by this guy very much. He's got a 45 that goes back to the mid-70s. And this was released in the UK with a different cover. And yeah, this is pretty flipped out stuff, pretty cool. Yeah, it was recorded on a couple of different sessions, December 79, January 80, and June 1981. And then I got the last Neil Young 12-inch promo single that I needed. I believe I have them all now, and I think this is the last one to be released. It's Neil Young and Crazy Horse, Too Lonely, from 1987 on Geffen, just before Geffen lost Neil Young. Neil went back to Reprise. Geffen sued Neil Young for producing music that was uncharacteristic to Neil Young. This is a good record, and it's a remix of Too Lonely. It's a lot more beefy, pumped up drums, and more like a dance single mix, but totally cool. And I think that this is the only way you can get that mix is on this 12-inch promo. So, that does it for the 12-inch stuff. And now we're going to move over to the bar. And I've got a few 45s to show. And I've also got a bonus attraction that I'm going to show after that. So let's take a look. Alright, we're going to take a look at those 45s now. This first one I'm going to show, it's a local record, and come out in 1982. It's Grant the Geezers, Monster Stomp. Sort of in that rockabilly vein. It's more like shockabilly. And pretty cool stuff. These guys were pretty popular for a few years, and they opened up for a lot of other local bands as well as some acts from out of the state. And this is just an excellent two-sider. It's rare to find, and I got a nice near mint copy of it. There's the songs Monster Stop, Space Cruise. Now the singer was Grant Cleaver, and I remember him very well. He was a British guy, long, lanky, squirrely dude, and he used to work at Rosta Moscow in Tempe in the early 80s, about the time that this record came out. In fact, I do remember this record from back then, but I never had a copy. And it has credits on the back, and it shows some of the bands that they used to open up with. They opened up for JFA, Soylent Green, The Varmints, Killer Pussy, Penetrators, Jetsons, The Urge, Keith, Joe, Dick, and the Goners, Panther Burns, The Alley Cats, The Gun Club, and The Blasters. So yeah, this was a nice find and a welcome addition of my collection. And here's another local record. It's the Cryptics, Darker Side of You. And this is a release from 1993. It's sort of heavy rock. It came out during the grunge era. And the lead singer was in a couple other bands before this. He was in Billy Clone and the Same and the Jetsons. And I showed their records in earlier videos. So yeah, this is a new old stock copy and a pretty cool two-sider. Okay, this next one I got at Half Price Books, and it's the Everly Brothers, and it's an autographed picture sleeve. Now I didn't know if this thing was going to be authentic, but I went home and before I bought it, and I went home, I did some checking on Google Images, and these signatures are dead on. So I'm pretty damn sure that these are authentic. There's Phil Everly right there, who passed away a couple of years ago, and his brother Don right below that. And Don is just about 80 years old now, so he probably doesn't have that much longer himself. Probably signed in the 80s or 90s, being in Sharpie. And I read that in recent years before Phil died, they had a falling out, and they weren't even speaking to one another. So I don't think they ever reconciled. So and Don is very upset over that. So just legendary duo, big influence on the Beatles. This is from their first Warner Brothers album, I believe, Everly Time. And I have heard that album, and it's from 1960, and you can hear a lot of that sound that the Beatles would take and kind of change that sound into their own style. But yeah, just a Hall of Fame brothers duo that just incredible vocals, great harmonies from these guys. Okay, this next one is Syndicate Sound, Little Girl. Now, I've got several copies of this record, and I picked this one up because it's on real vinyl. Usually when you see this record, it will be on polystyrene, so I got a nice excellent to near mint copy of that, and that was cheap. Most of these 45s that I got were really cheap. That Everly Brothers I got, that was like 15 bucks. So, I mean, that's pretty cheap for Everly Brothers autographs. And that was like $1 or $2. And then I got the Mugwumps, and it was like a couple of bucks, near mint. Bald-headed Woman. It's on the Sidewalk label. And flip side is Jug Band Music. Now this This is not the same mugwumps that Mama Cass Elliott was in, you know, before the Mamas and Papas. This is an LA mugwumps, and they have some tunes on I believe it's the Psych Out soundtrack, and also I think they're on the Freak Out USA comp as well, and they had a handful of 45s. And then I also got The Doors Tell the People on the red and white label, which is kind of unusual because usually when you see this 45 it'll be on that tan and black label. So this is kind of the earlier transitional label, and it was this was pressed on real vinyl, if I remember correctly. So some of those are going to be, some of those are on styrene. This is on real vinyl. And I got the first Doors single after Jim Morrison passed away, Tightrope Ride, in 1971. And there's the B-side. These don't pop up very often, kind of scarce. Not many people bought that 45. Then the last 45 I'm going to show is by the Milligrubs, and they're a real obscure Californian band. And I think this is probably from about 94, 95, 93, right in that time frame. And it's hand silk screen picture sleeve. It's kind of like an envelope. It's got a flap on the back, and it says hand numbered edition, or hand silk screened edition of 500 copies on the picture sleeve. I got this for like $1.50, real cheap. It's sort of a garagey sound with soul influence. It's definitely got that 60s sound. So, I mean, you know, hand silk screen sleeve, 500 copies, $1.50. Had to grab it. Okay, that's it for the 7-inch singles, and now I got one more thing to show, and it's a closer look. Now, I showed a bunch of these months ago in one of my videos, and I happened upon another one, and I got it from the same seller that I got all the others from, and she actually has a few more. I should probably pick them up, as they didn't make all that many. I'm not sure how many they made, but it was probably less than 12. So this one is volume 1, issue number 3, and it came out May 4th, 1968. Nice picture of Linda Ronstadt there in her bare feet. And I'm pretty sure she came out of Tucson, so she was local to Arizona. Now this paper is known for, it published a lot of national acts that came through Phoenix, and it published locally shot Phoenix photos. So I knew that Buffalo Springfield played here, but I wasn't sure if Neil Young was with them, because he's kind of off and on with Buffalo Springfield. But there is a picture of him. So he was at the gig, and that was in, I believe it was towards the tail end of April of 1968. So it was pretty close to when the Buffalo Springfield broke up. You know, their last gig was not too far after Phoenix. I think it was in California. So there's a picture of him, and it says Buffalo Springfield, Neil Young, lead singer. Well, no, sort of right, but he wasn't the lead singer. And there's a picture of Ritchie rhythm guitar. And there's a picture of the Buffalo Springfield backstage at the Arizona State Fairgrounds. They played in the exhibition hall. which was where they would have a lot of exhibitions during the state fair. And get this, they spelled Jim Messina's name wrong. It says Jim Messium. Not unusual for this paper to have people's names wrong. Here's a picture of Jim Messium on bass. Now Jim, he replaced Bruce Palmer on Buffalo Springfield after Bruce left for their after their third and final album. And there's a picture of Stephen Stills. It says lead guitarist. Wrong. More like lead singer. And here's a picture of Stephen Stills, and he's actually holding a copy of the Buffalo Springfield Closer Look. I showed that a while back in my other video, so that's pretty cool. And there's Kenny Odell. These are a couple of bands that opened up for the Buffalo Springfield. There's Dewey Martin, Springfield's drummer, with his wife, looking at that Buffalo Springfield Closer Look. There's Brenton Wood, opened up for the Springfield. Kenny Odell. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And in the back it's just got an article about Phil Mata's trip to London. Phil Mata was a local DJ, and he was also in the band Peanut Butter, Phoenix band Peanut Butter. And there's the Hollies posing with Phil Mata. There's Graham Nash. Here's a picture of Phil Mata with Maurice Gibb of the Bee Gees. And there's a little information about Linda Ronstadt and the Stone Ponies. Will appear May 7th at the Brophy Prep Gym. And opening up for Linda was the band People, who had the hit I Love You, which was a Zombies cover, and they were on Capitol Records. So, and there's the Wallace and Ladmo Drive-In. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll catch you guys in the future. And Ritchie, thank you for that VCLT, man. Love it. Peace.